This podcast has mature language, not intended for underage viewers.
Street cred sports. Street cred sports. I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
Hello, this is Keenan of Street Cred Sports Training, and welcome to another episode of Time to Ball. This is episode 28. Hope y'all are doing good. Hope y'all still enjoying my intro. I still love my intro. I use my intro. That's us, real talk. But yeah, no, I hope everything's going good. It's warming up. That's an understatement. They always say sometimes the weather is in certain parts of the country is bipolar, because sometimes you wake up and it's cold, and then in a few hours now it's a heat wave, and then by the end of the night it's a snowstorm. I've actually experienced that. I want to say it was a snowstorm that came through Dallas once, and it had snowed that morning. By like that afternoon, it was like 90-something degrees. It was the weirdest thing ever. So hopefully everybody's enjoying the weather wherever they at. I am. I told my mom, I was like, I don't even know what rain looks like. We've had some substance. It was wet, and it hit my car, and I didn't know what to do because it hadn't rained up here in so long. But let me get the things on my mind. All right, it's funny. It's funny how athletes are told to play your sport, right? Don't talk about politics. Don't talk about life situations. Whenever something is said, that one side doesn't agree with, or a type of person doesn't agree with, it's, you know what, you should just stick to sports. But then these same types of people want to always talk about what athletes should do, how they should play, how they should coach, talking about the coaches and stuff. Well, the coach should do this. Why aren't the coaches doing that? And it's like, wait a minute, hold on. If you don't want players trying to tell, get off in the real world circumstances, then y'all probably should stay in y'all space and not be trying to tell players, well, the players should be doing this. The coach, why didn't the coach do this? Now, I'm one of those people, but I'm not coming from it as a fan. I'm like, this is what I do. I have to, watch the game of basketball. Let me back up. I don't have to, because I've done it all my life, watching games, trying to understand, always trying to get better and evolve, understanding new concepts and stuff. When you're watching basketball, be it high school, college, middle school, city, travel, and pro. I'm always watching it. So there are some times with my eyes that something is telling me with my eyes that it's easy for me to see. But then I look at other people, some people, not other people, but some people who post, some people are on the shows and they're talking about things, and I'm like, man, like, what are you talking about? From one game to the next. A player can have a good game, but then the next game, that player was just off. Oh, one game, oh, he's the best player in the world. The next game, oh man, he's trash. They need to trade him. Like, wait a minute, how do you go from one extreme to the next? And I get it. It's fans. Fans, is short for fanatics. So I get that part. But I'm talking about it, if you're trying to tell somebody what they can and can't, what they shouldn't be doing as a player, talking about social issues or whatever, they speaking on whatever it is, and you trying to kill them for that, then you should take your own advice and not be trying to tell, players what they need to be doing, or tell coaches how they need to be coaching, who needs to be fired and moved and stuff. It's got to be good for if it's good for one person, it's got to be good for both. That's always how I've seen it. If you're going to hit me, then that's fine. But if I turn around and hit you back, don't start complaining about it, because you hit me first, right? So that's it's just weird, because I hear it almost on a daily basis in all sports, not just basketball, but in football, in baseball and all of that stuff. It's, oh my God, this coach is terrible, and he doesn't know what he's doing, and schematically this and this. And I'm thinking to myself, like, if you really think that the players don't believe, that what the coach is doing, they probably wouldn't run the plays. Now, granted, if you're a professional, you still have to run the plays and stuff. And if that coach is not putting you in a good position, then eventually, you end up, that coach ends up being gone. That's just kind of how it is, right? So it's weird. It's weird. I think it's funny, but it is weird. All right, so let me move on to the next thing on my mind. I was, listening to them talk about, the Heat. Congratulations to the Heat for winning the Eastern Conference Finals over the Celtics, and they will be playing the Denver Nuggets starting on Thursday, June 1st. But I heard a couple of guys talking, and again, I would love more analytical stuff, talking and break down film, this play, that play, tendencies and stuff. But some of these places, they have to do more of the hot takes to get people to listen and tune in and get emotional and upset and stuff. I can listen to a little bit, but then I kind of tune it out. But one thing that caught my ear, they were talking about Jimmy Butler, that he was already a Hall of Famer. I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying he isn't. What I will say is I think that Hall of Famer is probably thrown out too loosely and too early. I feel like, you know what? Obviously, you got to wait till this person finishes, their career. Because let's, I don't even want to put it out there. But let's say something happens and Jimmy Butler doesn't play anymore after this season. He finishes the finals and he doesn't play anymore. If he doesn't play anymore after the finals, whether they win or lose, then the question is he on that trajectory to be a Hall of Famer? Now, my personal opinion, I think anybody who's in that discussion, I'm not going to say they had to have won a championship. No. But a Hall of Famer is the best of the best. So I feel strongly that anybody who's considered for the Hall of Fame, whether they won an NBA championship or not, they should at least have made it to one finals. Okay? And they should have at least played in one NBA finals. That's just because that's my opinion, but here's why I stand on that. If you're considered one of the best ever, not like there are over 5,000 people who've ever played this game. They're not 5,000 people in the Hall of Fame. That doesn't happen. It's nowhere near that number. It's like, might not even be over 100. I'd have to look because they, the Hall of Fame on the basketball side, they include international, they include college and coaches and stuff. I'm just talking about the NBA players. Okay. Let's use Barkley, Charles Barkley as an example. Charles Barkley is regarded as one of the best NBA players ever, right? He made the top 50. He's still on the list. He was dominant, okay? He made it to at least one finals. So the thing I'm saying is if you're that great, or if you're considered that great, you should be good enough to get your team to a finals. Allen Iverson got to the finals with a bunch of bubble gum and tape because those guys played their butts off. They played a system and stuff, but you sometimes look back and you say, man, how did they get to the finals? Right? LeBron James' first finals appearance, like how did he get that team to the finals? Well, if you're that great, that's usually what happened. Now, of course, you have a supporting cast, but you should be good enough to get to the finals at least once in your career, whether you win it or lose it. To me, that's enough for me to put you in that conversation. So, this would be Jimmy's second finals appearance. So, by my criteria, I'm not saying he is a finals person. He's a Hall of Famer right now, But to me, he's met that threshold. Now, that's to me, is probably some other stuff I might need to see as far as dominant consistently. But I think he's trending up. Yeah, that's right. I'm an old head, and I use the word trending up. All right. Next, I want to discuss. There is a discussion that I'm often, I get talked to about on a regular basis, and it's about teams, travel teams that travel, and I've mentioned this before. I've said there 3 or 4 levels of a city. There's a city league team, and they just play in the city. They just play there. Then there's a travel team, and that team travels, but they just, usually play in local tournaments elsewhere throughout the state or the country. Just, they travel, they play against other teams. And then there's what I call exposure travel teams. And those teams play in the big events. They only play in the big events where colleges are. So, these kids can be exposed to colleges that they're recruiting and scouting services and stuff. And if those kids are, really good, then those college coaches, get a look at them and get a chance to try to, put them on their radar. But there is this growing thing, and it's not just here in El Paso. This is everywhere. There's a segment of people, and I don't know them. I don't know them personally. And when I say I don't know them, I'm speaking in general. Like, I haven't had a chance to have a conversation with some of these coaches that are quote unquote exposure travel teams, but they're not playing in the live events. So let me just kind of touch on it. What is a live period? I don't know if I've even mentioned it. I think I mentioned this before, but the live period is a period of time where Division I coaches can actively go look at games and events, right? So, but these events have to be NCAA certified, meaning they have to go register, go through all of the background and stuff that the NCAA requires and everything, and then they're listed as a certified event. So you can go on the NCAA website looking at certified, live period events and stuff like that, and click on, and you can literally see pretty much all of them, right? So what I explain to parents sometimes is you have to know when the live period is, and it changes. It used to be March to April, but now it's like a couple of weekends for the boys in April, and then there's like a couple of weekends in July. There might be some in March. But I don't have it in front of me. I have it saved on my phone. So if somebody wants to know, I'm probably going to be posting it. Not probably. I'm going to be posting it on my Street Cred Sports page, so people can see it. Because some teams don't play on the weekends that they're actually considered live, and they go, but then they'll turn around and say, "Yeah, we were over here and we were doing this," and it's like, no, you wasn't. You didn't play in a live event. I know a scout who was there, and they didn't see you. You didn't play. You didn't play in that. You didn't play in the live period, right? So you have to understand what the live period is for high school sports. On the girls' side, it's different. On the girls' side, I think it's some in May. I think it's some in April. There might be something in June or July, but I have it as well. I'm not as familiar with it, but I will be posting that as well. Once you see it, you can understand, like, if you have if your team is playing, like in Vegas, there's this big thing in Vegas, right? And all of these organizations are having tournaments and stuff throughout the month of July. It's a big thing. Fortunately, I will be going this year. I'm going to partake in some of this stuff. One of my great friends, shout out to Area Codes Basketball, Chad Growth. I'm going to be up there, and, I'll be doing some scouting as well. But I'm going to take it all in and see some games. But the weekend I'm there, I made sure that I went during a live period. But there are tournaments and stuff throughout that whole month. So you got to make sure that your team is in the live period. Otherwise, you're just traveling up there. No. Let me. It's still good, but what I'm saying is, if your team is putting it out there that they're going to play in front of colleges and scouts and stuff, you got to know when the live period is. Okay, so I'm gonna put that information up there to make sure you guys know. Okay, so let me shift back to the NBA, and I just want to say how disappointed I am with the Boston Celtics. They have been a team. They've been a team pretty much like the Warriors, the Timberwolves. I'm trying to think off the top of my head some other teams that they just, like, you see how good of a team they are. Now, obviously, both of those teams were dealing with some things. You had the Celtics that had coaching stuff, but that was before the season started, right? Then you had the Warriors at the beginning of the season with the Draymond and Poole incident, and that lingered. And maybe that stuff lingered with the Celtics, but the Celtics, as much talent as they have, they just play bad basketball at times. It's weird. They'll come out and they'll just play like really bad, and it's like, what are y'all doing? And then there are other games where it's like, man, they look like poetry in motion. I don't see anybody else beating them. Well, the bad Celtics team showed up on Game 7, and it wasn't fun to watch. Now, Jason Tatum did sustain an injury on the first play of the game, and he continued to play. He wasn't himself. He said he was a shell of himself. Maybe the coaches should have, taken him out a little bit, tried to give him some therapy on that during the game. But as talented as they are, you have another, superstar in Jaylen Brown. He should have. He had a really bad game. You're supporting Cavs. Nobody really stepped up, but they dug that hole for themselves because they were down 3-0. So now you have to have a perfect scenario. And look, in the history of the NBA, it's 0-155 or 0-151 or something like that. Teams that have come back from 0-3 deficits to win, or 3-0 deficits to come back and win. Well, of all the teams that have played, this Boston team is the one team in this matchup that I thought they should have gotten it done. But because they're so up and down, you don't know what team's going to show up. So I was really disappointed, and I'd rather be disappointed in the Eastern Conference final than to think that you're going to have, a really good finals game and watch one team just kind of go through the motions like, we're really good, we're just going to win. No, you got to show up and play. And that was things at times that I saw is just the IQ of some of the mistakes, the turnovers, the missed assignments. There were tons of missed assignments on slips, screens, what do you call it? Passing and screen, dribble handoffs and stuff like that. There were a ton of missed assignments on Boston over the screening road. It was bad. And I'm sitting up there saying, what are they doing? So I was very disappointed. And I'm not saying they need to blow the whole team up. There needs to be some changes. I don't think you need to change the coach because this is the third coach. And they've all gotten to the Eastern Conference final, and one coach got them to the finals. So the coaching is good. I think it's on the players. I think they've reached their ceiling with this team, and I think you need a point guard. A point guard. I'm not saying Chris Paul, okay, because you got Malcolm Brogdon. Maybe move him to the starting spot, but you need a guard that's going to start to settle this team down. They don't have somebody who will settle them down. They have people who like to shoot and score, but you don't have that player that's like, no, we're running this play. Al Horford has got a mismatch, so we're going to go to him. Yeah, Tatum, Brown, y'all guys have knock points down, but you need a guard that can settle them down and sometimes look at them and say, no, you're not getting this ball. This ball is going to him. He's hit 3 or 4 straight buckets, but here's what we're doing. We're going to him. When your man goes to help, you cut. It's going to be a backdoor, easy slam, a dunk, or whatever. Okay, so that's kind of what you need. Somebody to be a general and put everybody where they need to be because they don't have it. Marcus Smart doesn't run the point like a point guard. Okay, so that's another instance. That's all breaking down the whole team. But yeah, they need to make a change. All right. Okay, so next I'm going to tiptoe into this subject about credit. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, so I give you an instance. You might see a kid or an organization that'll post on social media and say, such and such has signed with this school, right? And it's a great accomplishment, for a kid to go play past high school, But the thing that I scratch my head sometimes is when someone or some organization is piggybacking off a person who is signed, but they didn't really have anything to do with that person. But they're putting it out there like they had something to do with it. I think it's wrong. I even go as far as to say, like, when people are when a kid is signing, they want to thank all of these people. They name those people. Coach such and such, if they were going through a trainer, they list their trainers, their school, if it's something with their, travel team, they list everybody. I've seen a lot of them, right? If your name not in that mix, you can't be turned around trying to share it and post like, yeah, we in here, we did this. That's you can't be taking credit like that. Take credit for stuff that you did. It's okay if your organization doesn't have every team. It's not going to happen. We can't train every kid in the city. Logistically, it's not possible because we don't have enough trainers to train that many kids. And there are other training organizations and stuff. And I'm glad that there are other training organizations in this city. For those of you who don't know, there was nobody around when I first started. These other training organizations have only come up within the last 5, 6, 7 years or so that they've started. So I'm glad because you need a variety. I had a person that came for an eval that was coming from, I think it was Fort Hancock. That's far. I've had people coming from not Carrizozo, but almost as far as Alamogordo. I had a person coming from Van Horn. I've had people seeking me out from Deming, New Mexico. So yeah, I get a lot of people coming. I've had people flying in the town before, wanting to come and train with me. They heard about me. I don't know how. Some of them heard word of mouth or what have you. So, but like, I'm not one that's trying to go out there and, put all of that information out there. Like, yeah, this person is, doing it. Now, I'm probably going to be a little bit more active because I'm, expanding and evolving, what I do. But I'm not like, oh yeah, well, I'm in the lab with this guy and we putting it on. Like, man, I'm in the lab, as they say, every day. And I'm in the lab building kids and building basketball players. And we have a long list of kids that we have trained, not just for like a few minutes, but we have trained that have went on and played and are playing college sports. I don't put it out there. If they put it out there and they tag me, then yeah, I do love to say congratulations. But I'm not out there trying to, like Suge Knight used to say on Death Row, if you want a producer that's not all up in the videos, and all singing and dancing, come to Death Row. That's not what I'm more behind the scenes now. But yeah, come on, y'all. If you ain't had nothing to do with it, stop trying to ride on these people's coattails and co-sign this stuff if you didn't have nothing to do with it. It didn't have nothing to do with you. Chill. Focus on what you have, get them, to be right, and then now you can plaster all of that up. I don't have a problem with you plastering people that you actually helped. But I know for a fact that there's a lot out there that are taking credit and they ain't done any of that. Because I know the ins and outs of how a lot of those kids got looks and got offers. And it wasn't through that organization. And then on top of that, when the kid actually posted, I want to thank this place, they didn't thank that organization. But that organization was putting it out there. And I'm like, they didn't even thank y'all. Why are you sharing it as if you had something to do with it? So, yeah, it's a thing. It's not a huge thing. I know why they do it. Is because if they put it out there, more people are gonna gravitate to them. So it's ultimately starts to be upon those people that are going to that said organization. And I have to educate my parents on a regular basis about this kind of stuff in hopes that, they at least know. If you decide to go to an organization knowing that organization has a bad history, that would ultimately be on you. You have to be held accountable. So yeah, that was just something I saw, the past 3 weeks I've been seeing it, and, not just here, but throughout. And I've had people posting almost the same thing. Like, why are y'all taking credit? Y'all didn't have nothing to do with it. So yeah, it's a thing. Okay. So let's get into my basketball training ideology. First thing I'm going to go into is my basketball dictionary term. We're going to talk about a stagger screen. What is a stagger screen? Okay. A stagger screen is 2 consecutive screens set for a teammate away from the ball screens that face the same direction. All right, so it kind of sounds a little, wait a minute, hold on, face the wrong direction, because you're trying to scramble to see what it is. So let me put it in a visual. All right. I have the ball at the top of the key. Okay. So my shooting guard, if I'm facing the basket, my shooting guard is on the left corner. Okay. I'm calling the play. Stagger screen is when at least 2 people, I've actually seen 3 at times, but at least 2 people set screens at different points to make sure that guy gets over. So let's say my 5 comes and sets the screen at the lower block on the left side, right? So my shooting guard goes to their first screen. And then my 4 will set a screen maybe just outside the paint on the right side, halfway in between the paint and mid-range, the short corner mid-range area, okay? So that second screen is it's not on the block, but it's up more. So it's kind of at an angle, right? So now when you go through both of those screens that are staggered at different intervals, you often will get a wide open look, because it's hard for those players to understand, how to cover it. If you try to switch it on the second, and that defender's trying to catch up, you might get a backdoor, lob to that 4 who set the second screen. Okay, so it's really hard to defend, and you often get really good shots. So stagger screens are something that you see. You really see them with teams that have really good shooters. And that shooter can open up a lot of actions because you're trying to make sure that shooter doesn't get that shot. So you sell out. A lot of times 2 people go at that person, and then you can get a slip or something else. They're putting all that attention in there. So maybe somebody on the wing now gets a backdoor cut on the left side or maybe on that corner. So it's really good. And if you're coaches, I suggest you really look into adding a stagger screen to your plays. Okay, so now I'm going to go into understand your handle. Now, what do I mean when I say understand your handle? What I basically mean is you have to really understand what kind of ball handler you are. If you're not a guy with handles that handles the ball like the ball is on a string or it's attached to your hand, it doesn't mean that you can't dribble, right? You can dribble and be a basic ball handler that just knows how to protect the ball, get to hit the spots that you're trying to get to make the passes, get to the basket, use your body, or use a series of maybe step back shots, or use your body to be able to free up space to shoot your jump shots. Not everybody's gonna have Kyrie or Steph Curry like handles. Like Damon Lillard doesn't have the same type of handles that Kyrie or Steph has. He can dribble the ball, he can get to his spots, but he doesn't have those woo type handles. There's a difference. Nothing wrong with it. Now, I'm not saying Damon Lillard doesn't handle the ball like that when he's working on his ball handling, but you don't see a lot of, double behind the backs, between the legs, and an in and out crossover move that makes that person fall. I haven't seen it. I'm not saying Damon Lillard hadn't done it, so don't be calling Damon saying, yo, K over here talking bad about your handle. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's a body of work there there are highlights where you see certain guys with those type of handles. Jamal Crawford comes to mind with those type of handles. There are other ones, but why am I bringing this up? Well, it goes to I'm using Jaylen Brown as an example. Jaylen Brown, who's I think a 6'8", 6'9" maybe wing defender, wing person, wing player with the Celtics. Very good player. He can handle the ball, but he dribbles as if he's a 6'1" point guard, and he's not 6'1". So it's almost like he doesn't understand how to use his ball handling and his balance. There are some situations where his length really, really serves him well. There are other situations where his length actually does him a disservice. You can't weave throughout traffic at 6'8", handling the ball against smaller guards. And that showed itself in the finals. He had a lot of turnovers. He had a lot of deflections that caused him to not be able to do what he wanted to do. And it's simply because he's a taller player. So, like, if I'm training him, I'm going to not try to have him get so low and dribble the ball so low. I'm going to have him in certain circumstances. Okay, when you're here, this is the type of handle we want to have. When you're here, this is the type of handle you want to have. And if you're there, this is the type of handle you want to have. So now he can utilize certain things in certain situations because you're going to get into those situations like every game. You're going to have 2 to 3 different. So here's what I mean. Miami played a 2-3 zone. Jaylen Brown would have the ball at the top to the top of the right side. And he'd make his move going towards the middle. And if you know about zone, that off guy was often coming in to swipe. And it's usually guards. Okay? So if you're going to penetrate, you have to make sure that you get that player in a wide enough angle on the top side that's defending you to where once you make your move, you're going to create a little bit of space that causes the other top guard to have to dive or come over more than what they want to, right? That's a certain type of, handle you have to be able to get through it. If you're on the top, but instead of going towards middle, you're going to go to the right side where that bottom person on that 2-3 zone is going to be coming up. You're going to have a little bit more space so you can use certain types of dribble. So it's really about understanding your dribble and knowing the defense and the defender, right? Like there's some defenders that I used to crack up when I used to play against guys who used to play football, right? And they moved their feet were really good going laterally. So I couldn't sit up there and play with them, trying to go by them because they were really good laterally. I learned to just make a little quick move and I was going north and south, not east and west. And they didn't have the foot speed to be able to turn their body and now keep up with me, which was weird. They could keep up with me side to side, but once I made a quick move and it got them off balance and I was gone, a lot of times it was easy after that. So you understand when you're going against people how you need to be, right? So you have to understand your handle. You have to understand if you have a loose handle or a tight handle. If you're a basic ball handler, you don't really have a lot of moves, crossovers, double moves, double counters. That's fine. Use your body. Be aggressive with your body. Maybe have one counter move, but if you learn how to play, if you know how to play the angles and stuff, you don't have to have all of these, crazy handles. Okay? If you have them, you have them. But if you have them, you got to know how to use them. But yes, please make sure you understand your handle. All right, last thing I want to talk about is I want to know, I got a question. My question is, should there be a process for someone to start a basketball team? Meaning, city league, travel, that kind of stuff team. Understand that people who coach high school are they're usually hired because they meet the criteria. Now, in the middle school circuit, middle school universe, it's not the same. Sometimes they pick a teacher just because their teacher looks like somebody who plays sports. And that person has no knowledge to coach, because oftentimes they don't have the personnel there enough to coach the team. So the middle school needs to get better at that. They need to make sure they have people that are dedicated that can coach said sport. You can't get somebody who played golf to now be a basketball coach. And I know a lot of middle schools have the football coaches coach basketball. Two different sports. Now, if that football coach played football and basketball, I'm all for it. But if you play football and you've never touched a basketball and you don't know what any of that stuff is, how can you coach? How can you coach basketball, right? So that's a different, subject, but I'm really speaking on city and travel teams. Cuz I feel like most coaches, I'll say all. Maybe it's not all, but I'll say all because I'm going to believe that all coaches mean well, right? I'm going to believe that. But at the same time, I do know for a fact that a lot of these coaches coaching these kids don't have any knowledge of the game, right? And some coaches are passionate with these city leagues and travel teams and stuff, but they're passionate in the wrong way. So you end up giving bad examples, to the kids, telling kids to foul, how to foul. Well, you show a kid how to, hard foul in certain situations, right? But if a person has a step or two on you on a fast break, you don't teach that kid to foul that person on that fast break, because a lot of times that's when somebody's going to get hurt. And that's also when somebody's going to take offense to that foul. And now you have other things. You have to understand how to reach your players. If you have aggressive players that do things that are not basketball related, you need to be able to coach them to not doing that. Because I hear parents at games saying, push them back. Don't let yourself, be aggressive, grit them, stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, they're not playing rugby. They're playing basketball. Why don't you make sure that they're teaching that player how to play defense, move their feet, cut that person off with that angle, be ready for whatever counter move that player is going to try to do in whatever situation. But I don't, I see posts all the time. I saw one here locally, but I see a lot of posts across the country where kids are doing things, and you hear the people on the sidelines, whether it's the coach or whether it's the parents, saying, hard foul or don't let them shoot the layup. And these kids are doing what they're being told without understanding the consequences of those actions. So it's not just about, the fouling. It's about teaching the kids how to play. Those kids need to learn how to play defense. They need to learn how to move their feet, whether it's a zone or whether it's a man. I spend a lot of time, which is why I'm so grateful to be in the position that I'm in, because I have a chance to where when parents come in and it's like, they're doing really well, but I had a parent like, the coach is getting on him about what he's doing on defense. He's not where he's supposed to be on defense, and he's getting yelled at and taken out. So I go through it with the player, but the kid didn't understand what they were supposed to do. They're just kind of all over the place. Now, that's on the coach. Because if you're going to implement a defense, if you have a player that may not know, you can't just yell at that player during the game. If that player doesn't know during practice, if that player doesn't know during the game, that player doesn't know during practice. And it's going to show in practice. So if you're running that in practice and you're scrimmaging against each other, why haven't you pulled that player to the side and show that player, or knowing some of these coaches know that these kids come to us, tell that coach to, have that player, have that coach say, look, this is what I need the training to work with them on. Then you have coaches who don't know anything about basketball. They're not running a good practice or a practice the way it's supposed to be. A lot have this idea that it's okay. We're going to do a few layups. We're going to do a few shooting drills. We're going to do a few ball handling. Okay, all right, 3-man weave. Oh, now we're going. Nothing wrong with three-man weave. There are some coaches that hate 3-man weave. Okay, others are, hey, okay, it is what it is, right? And then it's okay. Let's scrimmage, and they're playing. They're not running or working on the offense. They're not dealing with circumstance. I had a parent once that I asked, they were getting killed with the trap. They were full court pressing this team. This team was not prepared, and they got slaughtered. So then afterwards, then I asked the parent, I said, so your next 2 practices before your next game, what did you do? Oh, we just went and did what we did on the offense. And I'm like, you didn't work on the trap or the press, to try to help those kids to understand it? I said, because you're going to get a steady dose of it. And until you can deal with it, you're going to get slaughtered. It's like, no, they didn't work on it. I said, so that's a conversation y'all need to have with the coach. Like, hey, we can't handle the trap. Can you go over the trap? Here's a offensive play to deal with it, or something like that. So I wonder if there should be any type of, I don't say curriculum, or testing, but, if you're in a league, but I guess the leagues don't really, I'm not saying they don't care, but, if you start your own league, you could probably mandate that everybody who's in there, who's coaching the team, has some knowledge. Maybe it's a test that they have to take. Maybe you have to go into their practices and watch them. I don't know. It's a lot of work. Yes, it is a lot of work. But if you're putting all this time and effort and charging parents and kids, why not? Why not go through it? I mean, you don't have to go through that said, practice the whole season. You can pop in one. You can usually have a conversation with somebody and you'll know if that person really knows about it. Because if you watch a game, or if you just talk to a person, you know. I've talked to some people who try to kind of talk like they know what they're talking about, but they actually don't. Now, I don't call a person out because I don't want to be rude, but at the same time, I've been around people. Hell, there's sometimes when I'm talking to a college coach and I kind of say to myself, like, oh my God, it doesn't even sound like I know what I'm talking about. But it's the language, it's the different terms. That's kind of what I'm saying. Once I watch it, oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. And I know, yeah, but sometimes because the language and stuff, the terms change so much. It used to be the wing. Now they call it the 45, right? It's the 45. That you hear more people saying 45. Well, what happened to the wing? It used to be a down screen. Now it's a pin down. Huh? So terms are different, right? It's different all over. So I've just strongly feel that parents need coaches. Most of them are doing a great job with helping and volunteering to try to help these kids have a team to play and get out. But I really feel like there should be some knowledge, a little coaching clinic or something, or reach out to a coach who knows. Reach out to a high school coach. I actually help the coaches that bring their kids to me when I'm talking to them about stuff. I don't have a problem with doing it because I want them to be empowered, to help them. When their organization looks good, it looks good for everybody. So that knowledge is there. But yeah, I've heard some stories, and it's some head scratching stories. When your coach doesn't know how to do a drill, I'm not saying you got to know how to dribble and you got to look fancy and stuff like that. But when your coach is getting the ball and they're bouncing it as if they're bouncing a beach ball, and when they go to shoot it, they're shooting it like they're setting a volleyball shot. You got to kind of ask questions like, what's your philosophy, or what is it you're looking at doing? So that's just kind of how I think about it. But I mean, hey, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'm asked, well, why don't you get a team so you can structure it and do it? Well, unfortunately, I have a policy. We don't have a team because we deal with so many other organizations and teams and stuff. I wouldn't want anybody to think that if we were training their kid, we were trying to take them and put them on our team. This works. We're a neutral organization. This is work from day one. We'll never change. Now, I've allowed some of my trainers to help out with teams and stuff here and there, but there are restrictions on it. But at the same time, like, I can't have it. I can't see myself ever changing and saying, yeah, it's going to be the Street Cred Sports All-Star team now. We taking over. We taking y'all teams and stuff. I'm not doing that. So, if you know a coach, just kind of reach out to them and ask them if they need help with stuff. If they need help organizing their practice. If they're not sure what they need to do, hell, have them to contact me. I can give you all kinds of information to help you, because I want, whether you think it or not, I want everybody to succeed. Because when you have high level players, it's a beautiful sport to watch, competitive. You're not having all these, 60-2 games. You're having competitive games where kids are really having to think more, not think, but they're having to play harder. Their IQ is getting raised because it's not as easy. And you don't want it to be easy, because once they get into high school trying to go to college, everything gets harder. It doesn't get easier. It gets harder the older you get when you're playing this sport. Anybody telling you how easy it is, they ain't played against somebody that can bust their ass. Because if you play against somebody that can bust your ass, you know it's not easy. You got to come. And if you're competitive, you love it. I loved it with all the different people I had to play. I didn't play against some top levels, some NBA, top level people throughout my life. So I know it ain't easy. But having said all of that, hopefully we can come together and try to put things in place and make the sport better. But that's all of my time. I know I hope I didn't ramble on, but I felt it was important to bring up some of these things. So if you have questions, comments on stuff, hit me up in the comment section or reach out to me. And, we can have a debate. We ain't going to start screaming at each other, trying to fight and stuff. Well, I'll just come over to your place and show you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that, because I might go live and make you fall. I still got a little in the tank where I can do that. Not in long periods of time, but I still know how to read what you're doing and make you fall. That part won't leave me. Even if I have Alzheimer's, I might forget how I'm doing it, but I'm still gonna do it. But like, man, where'd you get that? I don't know, and I don't care. You guard me? But in any case, that'll be all for today. I'm gonna end it like I always do. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah, yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports.